In our next session, the speaker will offer critical insights that will enable you in understanding the usage of data-driven PR to achieve your magical sales figures. Please welcome up to the stage Mr. Harshal Patel. He is the CEO and founder of B2B Venture.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on the clock.
Yeah, perfect.
Give yourself time for Q&A.
A very good morning to the smartest marketeers. So I'm giving the presentation, so why are you nervous? I should be the nervous actually. A very good morning to all of you. Yeah, perfect. So first I'll just introduce myself. So almost a decade ago, I helped Australia's largest telecom company to set up their pre-sales operations across 4 different countries, which is a multi-million-dollar company now. And later I closely worked with 2 startups and I played a role in order to take them to a mid-sized segment. And right now I have 2 babies, okay? One is a 2-year-old and other one is just a 3-month-old kid, I would say. So one is B2B Venture and second one is B2B Times actually. So today I am going to talk to you about why solution sales is not working nowadays. And what is the distinct difference between the solution selling and insight selling? And what is the role of data in the insights and instinct? And next, I'll talk about why the traditional sales methodologies are not working nowadays and why micro-market strategies are working. And I'll also walk you through some of the use cases and the case studies that I worked. Because right now we are 65 people team and we will be soon operational in London as well as in the San Jose. We work with some of the largest Fortune 1000 companies as well as a lot of startups across the globe. So why solution sales is dying actually? So first question to all of you, that how many of you are handling the sales teams? Can you raise the hand? Okay. And how many of you are specifically reaching out to the business decision makers every month? That's a good number. So I think solution sales is not working nowadays because sales reps are more adapted at selling the solutions, but customers are becoming pretty smart in terms of finding their own solutions. And that's where the role of the PR will play a role. Second thing that is not working in the solution sales is getting a qualified lead is increasingly important. Getting a positive reply, getting an impression, or having a positive cold call, that's fantastic from a marketing standpoint. But getting a qualified lead is increasingly important because rest of the things are just the marketing noise. The third thing why it is not working is because sales team are spending a huge amount of time on administrative tasks, but they are not spending huge amount of time on closing the deals. And the moment they will start spending the time on closing the deals, that's when the sales will start to happen. The fourth problem that I have been observing since last few years is analytical illiteracy. A lot of the sales reps or the CXOs do have a deficiency or a disease called as analytics illiteracy. And why I'm saying this is if we see the sales funnel from prospect outreach, whether it would be through inbound or outbound, to getting a qualified lead or closing the deal, in this overall sales funnel, the analytical illiteracy is something that is not helping the founders and the sales team to really analyze who are their customers, what is the exact ideal customer profile, and how it is working. So for that matter, analytical illiteracy is the biggest problem that I have been observing since last few years. Now first I'll just give you a quick basics of what is the difference between the solution selling and the insight selling. Now, the first area that I'll talk about is what kind of companies to target. Traditionally, the sales reps in the solution selling were targeting the organizations with a very clear and established demands. But nowadays, the smart marketeers in the inside selling, they are reaching out to the agile organizations who have pretty emerging demands. So the data point that we need to analyze in this particular segment is what are those emerging demands and how we will track them. The second is what sort of initial information we need to gather or the sales rep need to gather. So in the solution selling, traditionally they were gathering that what need is customer seeking to address. But in inside sales, inside selling, what unrecognized need customers might have is something that is pretty important to tackle out. So the data point to analyze in this particular piece would be what is that unrecognized need. The third thing is pretty critical from a data science perspective, that when to engage with the customer. Okay? Now, in the solution selling, the traditional sales rep, what they were doing is when the moment when customers had a trouble, that was a smart point. They were reaching out to the prospects. But in inside selling, the smart sales professionals are reaching out to the customers before they are pinpointing any sort of problem. So the data point that we need to analyze in this particular segment is a need pointer. How we analyze the need of the prospect before we reach them is the most crucial part of the sales process. And that's where the data analytics illiteracy comes into a play. And of course, the next is how to begin the conversation. In the solution selling, customers were asking, customers were asking to the prospects that what is your pain? And that's when the customers were replying, and then the sales used to happen. But in inside selling, the smart professionals are offering the provocative insights from the beginning in order to engage them. So the data point to analyze in this particular segment would be what insights we need to offer that will complement them. And the last portion is how to direct the flow of the information to the prospects. So in solution selling, sales reps were asking the questions that can steer the customers through their purchase process. So those were the typical questioning methodology. But in inside selling, sales reps are giving coaching to the prospects. And that is the critical element over here. And the moment when you decide to coach to your prospects, you need to select the appropriate channel. And from my experience, Facebook, Google AdWords, Instagram don't work in the B2B environment. So what works? That I'll talk to you a little later. I will also give you a quick difference between the traditional approach and the micro-market strategy. Now, traditionally, what sales reps were doing? Now, they used to collect the data from different sources. Like it could be CRM, it could be billing, or it could be the traditional database which is available online. The sales reps used to purchase it at $500, the data of 2 lakh or 3 lakh decision makers. And data was updated and analyzed quarterly and semi-annually. And outside analysts used to provide the tools and the advice to these people that how this data is going to help them. But in the micro-market strategy, sales reps are getting pretty smarter at combining huge set of database, and they analyze that particular database monthly, weekly, and daily. So how many of you have the sales meetings daily with your sales reps? Can you raise the hand? How many of you have it weekly? That's a good number. But in micro-market strategy, daily meetings are pretty much important because data is going to analyze on regular basis across the sales funnel strategy. In terms of the resource allocation, traditionally, the sales coverage was defined by the larger regions and the territories. And sales resources were allocated according to the region's historical performance. So let's say if UK is working fantastic, okay, then sales reps used to go aggressive for the UK as a market. But in micro market, that is not going to work. Because sales coverage in the micro market is segmented into dozens or hundreds of micro markets. So over here, resources are deployed at micro market level according to the expected future opportunity. In the performance management as well, traditionally, what they were doing is reps, their performance was pretty asserted relative to the other reps. But in the micro market, the performance is assessed relative to the opportunities within the micro market actually. So in terms of the collaboration, traditionally, there was a lot of silos. So the sales, marketing, and customer support or the delivery team were not collaborating with each other. Because founders or the owners do have that fear that what if they steal my methodology or the recipe. But in the micro market strategy, each department of the company, including sales, marketing, strategy, and customer service, every single function is working together in order to drive the sales. Now, this is just a quick case study of leading brand development agency in California, which is about 700 people company. Now, I will just give you an overall glimpse that how we work with this particular company. Their target audience, so primarily this company used to provide the digitization services, the digital design services, and of course the web and mobile product engineering services as a marketing agency. And traditionally, they had a huge database. And when they approached us, they said that this is a database of 3 lakh companies across the US, please set up the meetings for us. And the moment when we started asking them the questions, something phenomenal came out. So some of the data points that we analyzed, the first data point was whether those companies had appropriate budgets with them or those companies are well funded or not. We segmented entire data set into each solution that they were providing, whether it is website development, whether it is web and mobile app development, or it was the digitization services. And for each segment, we analyzed what is the need pointer for the company. So the data set was devised in such a way that entire prospect funnel was pretty clear that who is the prospect for web and mobile product, who is the prospect for digitization. Because for example, we analyze the companies who are hiring for iOS and Android developers and we prioritize them in order to outreach. From that particular piece, we analyze that these companies have highest need as compared to the other accounts. And that's how we just reached out to 100 companies out of a data set of 20,000 companies, and we got 43 meetings. And the moment when we compared it with their other Facebook campaigns, Instagram campaigns, I mean, the ROI was not there at all. The inappropriate comments were there. So how we did over here? In the California, they had 3 sales reps, and they wanted to set up the face-to-face meetings with the prospects. We got the email addresses of all the CEOs and CMOs and VP of marketing who are responsible in order to give the decision to us. And we write a very personalized, highly focused email to them with a provocative insight. And out of which what we have seen, out of 100 prospects, we have got 83 responses within a span of 1 month. And we just sent 100 emails. It was not a MailChimp where we are sending thousands of emails in a day. Every email was customized and tweaked in a very professional manner, and the insights were captured in the most appropriate way. So in this overall process, what we have seen is analytical literacy of the sales team was not there. My team was pretty much aware that if the prospect is there, then what data points they need to analyze for each prospect. And there is a saying actually, if sales reps are talking about AI, then they really need to have eye on the data, okay, else they are blind. And that's where we really need to train, and it is a new trend, I would say, that is important that we should stay away from the marketing noise and we should full-fledged focus on what positive and the qualified leads we are getting out of the campaign. So there are some of the data points that I'm giving to the sales team. So right now we are handling about 85 sales team across the United States, Europe, and India. And all our customers, so some of the data points that we have given them in order to access each month. So these are some of the points. So the first one is predictive satisfaction scores for their customers. Sales team usually fail to really understand what is the customer satisfaction score at this point in time for their current customers. Second one, reminders to connect with the customers they have lost touch with. I mean, there are a lot of entrepreneurs over here, who have been working since last decade in the industry. But if you, recall entire database or your connections, it will be a humongous. The third thing is internal and external network size in comparison with the benchmark in their local areas. The fourth one is recommendations on how to grow their customer networks. The fifth one is time spent with each of their customers as compared to addressable market. And the last one, the top internal collaborators and remind to connect with other sales roles that are also working with their customers. How many of you know about the RevOps? Can you raise the hand? Fantastic. Okay. So now a lot of you must be knowing about DevOps. The RevOps is something which is coming up as a new age term. It is a strategic convergence between sales, marketing, and the customer service team in order to drive full accountability across the revenue engine. It is people, process, and data. Out of all of you, how many companies do you think are collaborating? I mean, all those three departments are collaborating with each other. I think there are pretty less number of companies. Their sales is working differently, their marketing is working differently, and their customer support team is working pretty differently. So that convergence is called as RevOps. And when the RevOps will fall into a play, there would be a sales funnel that will be activated pretty quickly. Because nowadays, I have seen there is a lot of battle that is happening between, I would say, the Tomatina festival between the marketing and sales. Now marketing team is throwing the tomatoes on the sales team saying that, boss, we sent 1,000 emails and 900 people opened it. Now you take it on. Sales team is saying, those are the unqualified leads, what we can do with it. And then founder is blaming to the sales team and marketing team that what's going on, because there is no collaboration. In order to avoid this blame game, the sales, marketing, and customer support needs to come together in order to take full accountability of the sales. Now, why RevOps is important? The first thing is there is a perennial disconnection between all three departments. And of course, there is the availability of AI and automation at each stage of funnel. You can track all the things with your customer, whether he has opened the email, whether he has clicked the email, or whether what was the last time he responded back to you, and is there an opportunity to close him. So AI is available at each stage, and sales rep or the RevOps team needs to use that particular piece at each level. And customers' expectations are pretty high during their buyer journey. For that purpose as well, the RevOps is pretty needed. Because sales team commits something else and delivery team gives something else. It is happening because there is a disconnection between the delivery and the sales and marketing team. And of course, there are inefficiencies in sharing the insights and accountability between the GTM teams. So for all those reasons, RevOps is pretty needed. And in this particular stuff, there are some of the key metrics that everyone should track. So the first one is what is your sales cycle time. Second one is what is the win rate. Third one is what is the cost of customer acquisition. Fourth one is what is the annual recurring revenue. Next one is renewals and upsells. Then the customer churn and the lifetime value. And of course, the forecast accuracy and the pipeline velocity. All these key metrics needs to get tracked in the RevOps on a regular basis. And the moment, now this is something that Harvard Business Review have brought into point, that every week, all these three teams need to come together and really brainstorm on these key metrics. And the moment when they will do it, the sales will start to happen, is what Howard says. It's not what I'm saying right now. So I will leave you with 3 questions today. So is your goals across the sales, marketing, and customer success are well aligned with the KPI? Do you think your key business metrics are matching up? And is there never-ending intra-organizational bickering? Is there any disconnection between all your departments? If it is there, then you need to think about full funnel accountability. You really need to think about predictable sales growth. You need to think about data-driven collaboration between all these 3 departments, and then only the higher win rates and the quick sales cycle will happen. So I will leave you with these particular thoughts, and would love to meet you in person as well during this event over a coffee in order to discuss how to take it forward. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the floor at all? Does anybody want to ask us? Wait, yeah, we've got a hand up over there. Can we have a microphone over there, please? Thank you.
Hi, Harshil.
Hey, hi.
That was a very hard-hitting presentation, I think.
Thank you so much.
I have a different side of the story. What if, as an agency, or say, we're not an agency, but we of course work with brands. We are working with a brand who has these disconnects, that we are actually assisting them with sales and marketing and lead generation, but we realize that their house is not in order and they're not actually having the right kind of communication. So in that case, how do you suggest, should an agency be upfront and perhaps mention it, or should we just work our way around it?
That is a pretty good question, actually, Richa. And from my experience, I also face the same challenge, because we understand the philosophy pretty well, but it is not the case with the customers always. But we can always give recommendations to them. And what I have seen is, out of 10 companies, at least 8 companies will, take it forward. So it is always great to give them suggestions that this is what you need to do, as we have seen great results out of it. And if they are convinced, you can go ahead with it. If they are not convinced, then we cannot do anything about it.
Any other questions? Yeah, we've got one. Can we have the mic? There's a couple down the front here. Run, 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 run.
Thank you for the lovely presentation. Most of my clients are B2B. They are into B2B business because all are industrialists. But the problem with the area which I come from is they are still in a traditional way of working. They are confused about the marketing team and sales team. Usually they don't have a marketing team, they just have a sales team. Okay. So the problem here that we face, like sales team is the decision maker, and they come to us and we want to make this kind of brochures and stuff like that, and it's very hard to educate them. Okay, and they want social media marketing, but it's not working for them because most of the products are not that B2C kind of work. So what can we, suggest them to what they need to change, and how do we convince them that these are the platforms that you need to look forward for?
Absolutely, that's a pretty good question. And I think in case of B2B environment, social media campaigns are working at a slightly lower side as compared to the cold calling, trade shows, or the events, or the email marketing. So in that particular case, it depends on agency who is reaching out to you. So this question is more as a recipe, I would say. It will be a case-to-case scenario, I would say, and but then for them, the best options would be to explore the email marketing, trade shows, and of course the cold calling approach with multiple touch points. But then the most predictable approach would be to reaching out to pretty focused accounts that are on their radar.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I totally agree with this application, which in my institution we try to do it with our clients. Okay, so I just want to hear your suggestion. Do you see, based on your experience, it's more resultful to apply the method and then present it to them as a presentation on documentation, or do it as a presentation and then, ask them to follow through?
Absolutely, that's a pretty good question actually. And what we have seen is, first thing is to really create the interest with the decision maker that we are reaching out. And in order to create the interest, if we send the presentation in the first place, they will lose the interest. So it is always, what I have seen is working well, is first thing is to get the reply from a prospect positively. And the moment when they will reply you positively, then engage them at the next level. If we start selling at the first place, then I think it will not work. So just to give you an example, for MatCon, I reached out to some of the people over here via email, just to say hi to them. I haven't pitched anything to them. But all of them have replied. That was a surprising fact. I reached out to 12 decision makers, all 12 folks replied to me. So getting a response and then building a connection and then presenting them is a right strategy than sending them the documents in the first place, is what we have seen actually.
So I like your approach of getting so insightful into building relationships, at the core, and then extending your to customer acquisition. But what do you have for customer retention? Because that's where you've already invested so much. And what are your suggestions on taking that forward?
So I think if I talk about my particular company, then we have heavily invested on 2 delivery heads and 3 project managers. And then each analyst is dedicatedly working for each client. And delivery heads do have their own KPIs, project managers do have their own KPIs, and we are using internal collaborative tool, because my background was in the programming, so I built that. And that is a method using which we are keeping a strong tap on the delivery. So I think for the retention, I would say that delivery plays a big role, and setting up a delivery team is a big challenge than setting up a sales team.
No, that's great, but could we also add something like, how to take those relationships forward so that there's business from word of mouth, for example?
Right.
So just my suggestion, and you could probably build on Meetrix for things like that.
Absolutely. So I think the best way in order to nurture those relationships is to drive the nurturing campaign. Maybe, dropping 3-4 lines to all those stakeholders on monthly basis is not a bad idea, because that way we will keep in touch with them. And of course, adding them to Facebook, LinkedIn, and keep posting the things and simultaneously writing them an personalized email is something that have worked for me as of now.
And as for me, I think the same thing has worked, that, rather than even just dropping an email which is personalized and reminding them of your business, just drop them an email which is totally unrelated to business. So that's really worked for me. That, and I don't even do it every month. I do it probably for someone it's a quarter, so for somebody it's a 6 months, because I believe the sales funnel is best at 18 months.
Okay.
So, with that long life cycle, you never lose a customer.
Absolutely.
So I think, customer retention could be a good add-on to.
Absolutely. That's a good suggestion.
Any other quick questions before we wrap this one up? No? Great, thank you. Harshal,
Okay,
thank you
so
so much. That's great, thank you.